Yeah, okay. So we have this is the completed model, the DM600 Mack. Uh, Everything is well, it's done. So I guess it's essentially out of the box, built straight really from the box. The only things I added were the airline post and the airlines from the kit, the rubber hosing, and so I just added a post. And what we did was on the bull bar that comes with the kit, that's the bumper extension that comes up here, I glued that onto the wider bumper. The kit comes with two bumpers. It comes with this skinny one and it comes with the wider one in the same shape, but I used that as a rear bumper. So I glued the bull bumper onto it and then sawed it off about an 1/8 inch from the top of the bumper, and then we stuck that piece right here on top of the frame. I don't know if you can see that. I drilled a hole through it and dropped this plastic drive shaft, spare part from another kit. Just cut and cleaned the top of it. I drilled a hole through it and then ran a short length of piano wire bent in an L shape, so it's got like the cactus arm coming out of it there. Just run the hose onto the exposed end here and then wrap it, as you see, around this bent extension here on this side. And that was just to give that, kind of more of a detail to the truck. As far as everything else goes, I used a piece of aluminum tubing here and used the kit provided shroud. I just had to sand out the inside of it. It had a couple of pins that were designed to go into the side of the plastic component of the exhaust. To just sand it all in there. We just used sandpaper wrapped around a length of dowel to fit in there and get it all sanded, hollowed out so it would fit around the aluminum. Let me think. That's pretty much it. This is a piece out of a spares box. I just, detailed a piece of part of the bumper I wanted to put on there. The only decals I used, I didn't want the roadway decals on it in any configuration. Those are basically, roadway is an overland, over the road sort of transport company, and this particular Mack was more generally used on construction sites, in mining operation, logging, that kind of work, more than it was ever used in over the road, delivery, that kind of thing. It wasn't really used for that. So the paint I went with was to get a sort of a Pacific Northwest kind of a logging truck look, and so that's what we did. I didn't want very much chrome on the model. I left the fifth wheel in chrome and just scuffed it up with sandpaper, like a 400 grit sandpaper. Just sanded, scuffed it, and it brought out the underlying black. This is chrome over black. I think the other chrome tree is actually chrome over white plastic. Fortunately, this was chrome over black, so it came out looking, I don't know, pretty good to me anyway. The kit itself goes together real well. The parts fit is pretty good. There were only a few parts that didn't quite fit. And I changed up a couple of things just to get a better fit. The part that's supposed to come out of here and connect to the radiator just wasn't long enough, didn't fit. And the loose part on top of the block ended right about, I don't know, there. So I just added a piece of evergreen plastic tubing to make it fit to the radiator. But and then this part here that goes into the top of the intake charger here was the wrong shape, so I just use a piece of solder, bent soldering wire. I buy this stuff in this size. I buy it in actually a couple of sizes. I use this a lot for engine plumbing, conspicuously, but for other needs too. It comes in handy. kind of a cure-all for parts like hoses and stuff that don't fit. Or if you want to create your own exhaust plumbing sometimes, you can use that. But you see that comes out pretty good. It looks all right in there. I just dirtied it up a little bit with the Panaline accent color, this stuff from Tamiya, this wonderful juice. Left the side windows out of the model. I didn't put them in at all. You know, not having the air conditioning unit on top, figured it's going to get hot in this truck. You're probably going to use it with the windows down. So that's just what I did. I just left them off. What else? What else? You can see the paint configuration. One of the videos I kind of unmasked those, and so you can kind of see how they were masked. It's pretty basic. I painted all the chrome parts. I didn't try stripping them. I've never had much luck stripping the chrome off of these parts. I tried oven cleaner and different things, and it's just a mess. So what I do instead is I just primer them. I just take all the chrome parts that I'm going to paint and spray this over, and then work off of that. And it seems to work fine. I don't get any paint flaking. I don't have any problems with that. It doesn't bubble off. It tends to work. So that's what I do. I don't mess with trying to strip the chrome off of these parts. In some cases, what you can do is when you use the primer and a couple of coats of paint, and then you want to go back and get some wear, take that 400 grit sandpaper, and you can see on the top of the battery boxes, that's kind of what happened here. So on the battery boxes, I used the primer and then painted white, and then painted my accent color, the green, but I wanted there to be wear on top of those. Working on top of the truck here, hooking up trailers, you're going to be standing on these things. So I just took and just brushed them a little bit with the sandpaper on a sanding block before they were mounted onto the truck, and it brings out that, you know, you just sand it down to the chrome plating and you're good. So that's what we did there. I painted the tread steps green. I didn't want to leave those in chrome. Too much chrome, to me, it just you know, especially on a truck that's going to be working on mostly in a yard like this one would. Just too much chrome, just too much. But obviously the Mack logos and the Mack Bulldog, I did want those on there, and so that's, in this case, with this kit, the MPC model, you attach each of these letters individually, so that was kind of tricky lining those up and getting them centered. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to show you was the headlights. So this kit actually had them molded in. There was no option for using plastic lenses. So I just took this poster paint. Sharpie makes these paint pens. They call it poster paint, or I don't know what. Somewhere on here it says something about poster. But when you go into any office supply store or even art stores, that's what they call these, is a Sharpie poster paint pen. And you just draw, I just, you know, colored in the headlights with the white. And I think that looks better than if I'd painted them silver to, you know, kind of offset the chrome. And as far as the chrome parts here went, I just washed them with that Panaline accent color from Tamiya, just to, you know, change them up. The radiator I just sprayed with gloss aluminum paint, and that came out fine. I didn't actually accent that with the Panaline accentuator. I just left it, and I think it has a nice effect. I don't know if you can see, but I sort of pad printed the color green onto the Mack logo on these cover caps on the trundles. I don't know kind of if you can see that, but I thought that came out all right. I did the same thing with the mud flaps. So these mud flaps have the ejector pin markings on the faces, not on the back side of them, which is a problem. All four of them, and so what I did was I tried to slice off as much of that as I could with the knife, and then took the two best examples and used those on the back here where they were visible. The front ones I reversed, and I put a bit of a bend in. I wrapped them around some dowel to get a nice little radius to them. And those are more fender extensions than mud flaps, so the rigidity and all that and the curvature on them, I think, was more appropriate than having them be straight and just angled forward. So getting back to these, so then once I got those ejector pins sort of sliced off, I just overlaid some of my yellow frog tape and cut, cleanly around the borders there, and just used that as like a laminate. And what it did is it kind of added a little more texture to the already textured faces. It's thin enough tape that it kind of more or less conformed around the Mack logo here. And then I just took that painter's pen, that poster pen, and just carefully rubbed it over the lettering and the bulldog emblem. And then came back with my green on a fine tip brush, and just came back in with that green paint and just kind of laced it around the outside here. And then washed the whole thing, both of them pretty good with the panel line accentuator. And so that's how we ended up with the mud flaps looking like that. It's not perfect, you can't really read the Mack word there, but it's good enough, especially at some distance. You can tell that's what the intent is on there. All right, the air cleaner, I cut it down with the kit that has the long post air cleaner intake. I don't really like that look, so I just sawed it off and stuck the actual air cleaner cap onto the stub, make it shorter. I think that looks better. That also eliminates the opportunity for you to use it as part of the mounting for the mirror. So I just mounted the right side mirror the same as the left side mirror. Kit comes with the parts to do that. So, and then for the radio antenna, I used a guitar string. Just unwrapped them to a point. So these are wrapped up to about, I don't know, a 1/4 inch or so above the hood line, and then they're unwrapped, just plain wire above that. Just sprayed them with that aluminum paint and stuck them in there. So we're trying to use up all these holes. They drilled an awful lot of, they molded in a whole lot of holes here, and the only one I couldn't come up with a part to fill was this one here behind the handhold. So I could come back with a bit of white putty probably and just fill that. Or I could probably fill it with white glue and then dab some of the racing white paint on top of that. But for now, I'm not that concerned about that. You see the decals I chose out of the kit selection. Again, there wasn't much. There's no company logo, but the plates, the license plates are on. I put the U.S. flag on where it would go. We numbered this truck 55. No particular reason for that. Just it just looks good on there. White on the green, white numbering on the green paint. And the Mack logo I put on the air cleaner. And that's our finished, completed MPC Mack DM600. It's this kit. If you haven't seen the other videos, so it's decent. It's nice. There's an AMT Mack truck out there, a little bit different. It's a different truck, a different model of the truck, different series. But it's a nice kit too. I guess I chose this one because I like this earlier configuration. The narrow cab offset. It just looks a little bit more industrial, a little bit more, I don't know. It's a little more unusual as far as semi trucks go. And so anyway, rims were painted white. Again, they were first primered, painted white, and then I sloshed a good amount of that panel line accentuator in there to darken and dirty them up. Let's see. Here's the underside of the truck. You can see the motor's painted in that light blue-gray. I found an example of a Mack engine from the mid-60s that was for sale. It was on YouTube. It was painted up like that. There wasn't a whole lot of contrasting coloration on the engine. So that's what we did. We just painted it pretty much overall in that, and then I used varying amounts of the panel line juice here and there, and a Q-tip, and just really burnished it into some of the parts, not all the parts, with the Q-tip to kind of differentiate some of the components one to the other. So even though it's a monochromatic look, with the panel line accentuator and the Q-tip, and really burnishing it into a couple of the parts, you get a decent overall effect, at least to my eye. All right, so anyway, there's our video. There's our unwrapping, or our finished product reveal of the Mack DM600 from MPC. Thanks for watching.